Hey guys, and welcome to today's episode of Candidly CREW. I'm your host, Chesley White.
And I'm Mareena Register.
How's it going?
Pretty good. It is my last week of work before I go off to Montana for vacation.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. What are you going to do there?
That's a great question. Other people in our group are skiing, but I have a bum knee. And so I don't ski. So
I don't blame you.
There is an alpaca farm nearby that we're definitely going to go to. There's going to be 14 of us there, including 3 children under the age of 2.
Oh, okay. So I was about to say, it's going to be a real party then, but then you said the 3 children.
But I mean, still they're going to be a party. But honestly, if I can drink my coffee while looking at the mountains from the porch of our Airbnb.
That sounds pretty amazing.
I think I'll be great. They have a hot tub and everything. It's going to be really nice.
Okay.
Pretty excited.
All right. Well, let me know how it goes. It's on my list. Our next skiing vacation will be either Montana or Park City.
Okay.
So I need
I'll do a quick poll of all the people coming back from the slopes.
Thank you. Yeah, collect some data for me.
Because they love skiing. They gotta
let me know.
So
perfect.
Well, today on our episode, we're talking to one of my favorite people, Debbie McDonough, who is a tax director, semi-retired at Cherry Bekaert LLP.
Yes. So Debbie is amazing.
She is. It's so fun to hear her passion for other people and for women.
Agreed.
And in their careers, I feel like she had such good nuggets for us today.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to give away the entire episode, but I think that the 2 biggest takeaways were that she talked about was, to think about what you want and to ask for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's huge. It's so simple, but it's so huge in terms of just putting it out there, what you're looking to do and what you need, and then just see what happens.
Right. And then her other big takeaway was just understanding the need to market yourself. And she goes into it deeper. So again, won't give away the whole episode, but it's so important to let people know what you're doing and what you're looking for and what you'd like. Because if your company or your boss or whoever doesn't know what you want, how can they help you get there?
That's right. That's exactly right. So anyway, well, we hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and let's bring her in.
All right.
All right, Debbie. Well, thanks for being here today. We really appreciate it. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm working during busy season when I shouldn't be. I should be retired.
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually surprised we booked this date.
I know.
We should have maybe waited 2 weeks or so.
That's true. I should have thought. So that's on me.
I wasn't thinking. I just knew I had a free.
You're retired, so you shouldn't have to.
Very true.
Well, let's get into it. We want to hear all about your story. So let's start maybe from, I don't know, out of college. What did you study in college, and how did you move into your career from there?
Okay. It was purely accidental that I ended up in the profession that I'm in. I decided in high school I was going to be a research scientist. So I went to college and got my degree in biochemistry and chemistry, minored in math because I thought as a backup I might be a math teacher. Went to graduate school, MD, PhD program, where I thought I was going to do medical research. I was going to solve the big mysteries of the world for science and medicine, and realized a couple years in that you spend all the time in the lab pretty much by yourself, and you could work on a project all your life and never solve it. And I'm more of I want instant gratification, something where I can say, Debbie, you did a great job on that, hooray. And I wanted to be around people.
Yep.
So I quit that program, much to my dad's. He's a research scientist. He's very depressed about it, still speaks about it. And went back to school and started taking just random courses and just happened into an accounting class. And so the way the program was that I decided to go into was take everything you always wanted to know about accounting in these 4-hour, 1-week sessions for a whole year. So I got basically my undergraduate degree in a year. And then I went on to get my master's degree in accounting. So my focus during my master's program was really auditing. I took 1 tax course and told the professor it was the worst course I'd ever had in my entire life. It was boring. It was memorization. I couldn't see how I would ever do tax. She still laughs about today when I run into him. So I started out of school at a large firm as an auditor, and worked for a few months as an auditor. And as things happen, their tax department happened to have lost some people, and it was busy season, and they were shorthanded. I was the newest hire. So they said, okay, Debbie, we have an opportunity for you. You get to work in tax. And I'm like, really? I'm going to have to do tax? This is horrible. But I got in there and realized it isn't like it is in school, that there is a lot of problem solving and planning in it, which is what I liked about science. And so after that busy season, I stayed in tax. So how I moved from there into commercial real estate from a tax perspective was that company had huge real estate funds. And so I got put on those. And they also had a lot of multifamily type work, and I got put on those. So I spent the 5 years that I worked for that company working on those types of clients. And once you develop a skill set in an area, as you move on, you become the person of choice for that. So as I moved through my career, everywhere I went, they're like, oh, she knows real estate. And so by the time I retired, which I'm really not yet, I was doing pretty much 90% of my book of business was all real estate, commercial real estate type clients, a little bit of residential, but mostly commercial.
Did you learn like the law specific to real estate because you're working on those clients, and then you kind of continue to carry that knowledge with you as you, I'm sure they change the rules every so often and stuff like that too.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. There's a specific set of rules that apply to real estate. And so you become specialized in those, and they're not necessarily applicable to other areas. And so you carry that knowledge with you, and you become valuable because of that.
Makes sense.
At what part, and I think it happens at multiple segments of like the real estate cycle, would you say that people should be looking to talk with like a tax professional?
At the very beginning. That's where we run into that so often, where people come in after the fact. They've already got their plan in place, and there are things that we could have done up front to help them plan, to get tax credits, to get them to structure the deal a little more beneficially for them. And very often it's hard to go back and fix that if you're too far down the road. The worst case is they come in for the year and say, we want you to do their tax return, and they've already done the deal. And then it's really hard then to go back and help them benefit when you could have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in, so you said, you started in science, which is very different from tax.
Yes.
And you came to this realization like, hey, I want to work with people and I want quicker problems to solve. Was that a difficult decision, or was it an easy like, oh, okay, well, I'll just do something else then?
Oh, no, it was very challenging, mainly because I think a lot of my dad.
Yeah.
And had a lot of respect for him. And he was so sure he was going to, my maiden name was Schmidt. We were going to publish a paper with Schmidt and Schmidt, some research project that we had solved. And so to burst his bubble, so to speak, took a lot of thought. But I just wasn't happy.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. How long do you think you reflected on that decision?
Probably a couple of years, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I pretty much knew when I started that MD PhD program after the first 6 months, this is not really what I want to do. But I thought, okay, I'll just stick it out. He used to always tell me, oh, you haven't gotten to the good part. Just try this. You haven't gotten this. So I thought, okay, I'm going to wait until I get to the good part. But the longer I did, I'm like, this is just not for me.
Yeah. So did it help to have your dad in research science, not in the way of to make the decision, but to see what it would look like? But then I'm trying to, because it comes like, how did you find out you like working with people? Like, when did that, because I feel like in college, I was like, no, I could do everything all by myself. And then I thought that that's what accounting was. And then when I got into accounting and it wasn't that, it was great because I had over my college years figured out like, oh, I actually do enjoy being around human beings.
Yeah, I think it was being in the lab that made me realize that I missed people. Because in college, I was very active. I was involved in a sorority and did all the college social things and all around people all the time. And then to move to a graduate program where the only people I'm around pretty much other than my classmates are the one or two people that happen to be in the lab with me. And lots of times experiments, you're in the lab by yourself.
Yeah.
You're counting things in the middle of the night. And I did not enjoy that.
Now you can do taxes alone in the middle of the night.
That's true. Now, what made me think taxes was a people program was I had a friend who had gone into public accounting, and she had a brochure from one of the big firms, and it talked about how you travel and you get to meet all these people. And my ideal client at the time, I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get an accounting degree, and I'm going to work with life sciences businesses. And I'm going to be able to apply my science knowledge to help them grow. And I'm going to be able to travel and see the world. And it showed pictures of, all these people hanging out together. I thought, this is going to be great.
So what does your day-to-day look like? And I know that, so you retired technically in 2019. 2019.
Yeah, it was in the fall of 2019.
Fall
a
of
few months before
2019.
COVID.
Yeah.
It was great.
And then you've been kind of back as needed on interim basis. So, I mean, does it look different now than it did when you were fully integrated in like 2018? And what did that look like?
Yeah, let me start out with what it did look like and where I am now and why I want to be where I am now.
Yeah.
Before I retired, I had a book of business that I managed, all pretty much real estate clients. And so from a day-to-day standpoint, I made sure they got their tax filings done on time. I made sure that I brought to their attention any new law that was out there so we could help them plan around that. If they were doing deals, we would consult with each other and try and figure out how to structure it the best way so that they could get the tax credits or have them get the money that they think they're going to get out of the deal, that type of thing. I was on the real estate I was a part of the real estate group of the firm. I was on the executive committee. I was considered the firm experts on like-kind exchanges. So anybody in the firm that had questions about that would come to me. Did a lot of partnership training. I taught at Tax U, which was our annual training that all the tax people got together. I did webinars for the firm. As a side thing that I really enjoyed doing was I headed up the mentor program for the tax side. We didn't have enough people to do as much as I would have liked with that. But that's kind of how I did a lot of training with people. So, I mean, it was a whole mix of things. And then I retired and we bought an RV, thought I was going to be gone, and COVID hit, and they needed help. So they asked me to come back. And I did a really good job, I feel, transitioning my clients to other people, made the introduction, helped the first year or so just with knowledge, institutional knowledge. So now when I go back, I'm more in the behind the scenes because I don't want to go out and meet with the clients and have them go, oh, Debbie's back. Let me call Debbie.
You're never going to retire at that point, really.
Right. And it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the person who's coming along behind me to take my place to have clients call me and circumvent them. I want them to be the person that the client talks to. So I just do a lot of tax technical stuff behind the scene. Talk to partners on Saturdays in the middle of the day. But yeah, so that's how it's different.
And how do you feel now being in that role? You know, it's different than it was before, obviously. Like, is it a good spot for you? Or are you ready to transition soon to being fully retired? Is it a good balance?
It's good in that I like, there's been a lot of law changes due to COVID, and I like the challenge of trying to figure out how those are going to work and how we can help clients get around things or whatever it is. So that it's mentally stimulating, which I like. I also like that if I am busy, like this morning, I can tell them I'm not going to be in today until whatever time, and there's no pressure on me to be there. Having said that, though, we had trips planned in the RV that got canceled. I'm ready to hit the road.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be here next week, but starting the week after that, we're gone pretty much until July.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome. Good.
And I miss the people. So I do enjoy being in the office and seeing people.
Yeah.
In that regard.
I will say so, in case people don't know, I work with Debbie. We both work at Cherry Bekaert. I was always on the auditing side before my recent switch over to client accounting services. And audit and tax work together fairly often, but I would just say I always knew I was welcome in Debbie's office.
Oh, thank you.
And would always walk by and just stop in and an hour later be like, oh, sorry. And head out. So, I mean, Debbie was such a mainstay in my early career, I feel like, as a mentor that was a woman in leadership in our firm, which was really, really exciting for me to see. So yeah, the people part was a huge part of your job and really mattered. You could see that there was many like men and women in the office that felt like you were a mentor to them and developed them and helped them grow, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
So how long were you with Cherry Bekaert? Before you kind of retired?
When I kind of retired, it was 5 years.
Okay.
So really not very long.
Yeah.
I followed Mark, my current boss, from another firm over there.
Okay.
I probably would have stayed. If he had stayed there, I probably would have stayed with the other company.
I gotcha.
But I enjoyed working with him, and he's a real estate person.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed
Just
working.
wanted to stay in that lane. Yeah, makes sense. Very cool.
So, yeah.
So how did you see in those 5 years, I guess you kind of entered, Cherry Bekaert in a senior experience level. did you jump right in and they're like, hey, here's the
Pretty much.
yeah, here's the land. What do you want to do? You know, like
Yeah, they were growing very, very quickly, and I credit Mark with a lot of that. And they needed people that had that technical knowledge. So I walked in and they said, "Here you go." And the other thing that was going on that I think I helped with is we had two different cultures. We had the Cherry Bekaert of old, and then we had the new people coming in.
Uh-huh.
And there was a little bit of tension between those two groups because each thought that their way of doing things was best. And I feel like I was a good mediator. I had several people tell me that I was helpful because I could help both sides see what the other was trying to do. And I feel like it brought the tax department together. So that was very rewarding.
Yeah.
Because there did used to be like a big.
It was when I started, I thought, oh, my goodness.
What did I
do? But I love everybody there now, and everybody works really well together.
So what would you say is the most challenging or was the most challenging part?
So that can take a lot of, do you mean over my career? Because I can tell you some challenges I've had over my career that have been. So the first one I would say from a career perspective was not realizing how many hours you work in public accounting.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. People and the general public, I don't think, realize that we're a lot like attorneys, really. And so our hours, you can work 2,600 a year, 3,000 a year. It just depends on staffing and law changes and that type of thing. Whereas 2080 is full time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was crazy. So how I worked through that, because I have 4 children and a career-minded husband. So to have a 2-career family and 4 children was pretty challenging. So I went into my employer and said, I feel like the times you really need me are from like January 15th to April 15th and like September and October for the 2 huge filing deadlines. So I said, I will give you whatever you need from me during those time periods, but it would help my family a lot if I could then work 30 hours a week for the rest of the year just to deal with 4 children. They all did traveling sports.
Yeah.
Life was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And this was way before any kind of flexible work arrangements or anything like that were even around. And it took them a while to think about it. And they finally came back and said, okay, we'll let you do it. So it's at the end of March, my first year doing it. And a partner came into my office and he said, I just want to thank you. And I said, why? And he said, for working the hours you're working. I go, well, that was the agreement. I told you I would work the hours that I'm working. He goes, yeah, but we didn't believe you would. So it was nice of them to give me the opportunity when they didn't think that I would do it. But it's sad that the environment was such that, you couldn't come in and trust that your employee was actually going to do that. The sad thing about that initially was that stopped my progression. I know we talk about peaks and plateaus sometimes, and that was a plateau because it took them a little while to realize that you can have an arrangement like that at all levels. You just have a smaller book of business, smaller workload.
Right.
And that eventually changed, except for getting to partner. But
did you make partner there?
No.
Okay.
I had a mentor that tried really hard to get me there, but they weren't ready for part-time partners at that point.
Okay.
Now they have them, but back then,
yeah,
they
just
didn't.
wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to work up the courage to ask them for that arrangement that you needed, that you knew you needed?
It was a while.
Yeah.
It was a while because I was afraid they would say no. But then I got thinking, so what if they say no?
Right.
I'm not any worse off than I currently am.
Right.
So, and I really liked my job and I didn't want to change. And so I decided it was worth it to do that.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest hurdle I overcame. The second one was learning to, and I did not realize this, I was so naive coming out. I thought that if you did a good job, you would be rewarded for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize that you need to let people know what you're doing and you need to ask for it. And there was so much, especially back in my day, because I was when I first started, there were no women in my office. And there was a lot of informal camaraderie going on. I call it water cooler type things, where men would get together and they'd go play golf or they'd go out for drinks. Well, no man was going to take a female out for drinks or to lunch or even lunch then.
Yeah.
Now it's different. But back then,
Yeah.
because they were worried that somebody would see them and tell their wives.
Right.
And so not realizing that my male counterparts were in the office saying, we're getting this work. I want to do that. Or I expect to be promoted this year. Or let me tell you this great job that I did on this thing. They were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I wasn't doing as good a job. It was just when it came time to evaluate or to think about projects and how they were going to be assigned, they had just talked to that person who had said, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
So
They were
more
getting
likely,
marketing time. They're
Yes.
marketing themselves. Yeah.
And so that was probably honestly the biggest hurdle. That I think if I'd had a mentor early on that had told me you need to be doing this, it would have changed the trajectory of my career. But
Yeah.
I just didn't know. That's one of the things I make sure I tell people.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is because I think there are still
Yeah.
people that don't know that.
Mhm.
There is
Yeah.
some level where you feel like, well, if I just keep doing a good job and if I'm working a lot of hours,
Mhm.
they'll see how hard I'm working. But I had to learn early on too that unless you told people, like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to see it, if I'm working late in the office and no one is around to see it, like it's
Yep.
like I didn't even do it. And so trying to find a not aggressive or strange way to say like, oh yeah, I was here very late last night to make sure that this job got done because it's my job.
Mhm.
And it wouldn't have gotten done if I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
That's right. I think you're very good at that.
I have gotten good at it for sure.
And to also let, like when clients come back and say, wow, you did a great job on that, either say, can you please let so-and-so know? Or you go and tell your boss, hey, I just got accolades from the client about the great job we did.
Yeah.
Because if you don't tell them, then you
I
don't
know. It's such a great point, and you just don't really think about it that much until you realize, like, hey, I'm not getting any type of recognition, and I'm working my butt off, and I'm here, you know?
Well,
Yeah,
and
or
then
why
that
did so-and-so get that project when I would really have liked that?
Right.
it leads you to feel like, I mean, now I can't think of the word, like dissatisfied and unrecognized.
Yeah,
where if you
unappreciated, maybe.
unappreciated is a very good way to say it. So I think that's also another reason why people leave. And then the bosses are like, why did that person leave? I have no idea why they wouldn't have just talked to me, but they didn't feel appreciated enough to even make that leap. And so I do think that's a huge thing for people at any point in their careers, but especially early on to be talking with people above you and have that mentor relationship.
I agree.
It's really important.
I agree.
So you mentioned some plateaus that you went through in your career. How did you think about those and like kind of come to realize that you were in one, and how do you get out of it?
Yeah, that was hard because usually the plateaus that I experienced were family driven.
Okay.
And so not necessarily work driven. There probably were some that I didn't realize because I wasn't promoting myself.
Yeah.
So my trajectory might have been like this and everybody else's was like that. But most of the ones that I knew when I knew I was in it, it was because I'd made a choice that at that point in my career, I needed to focus on my family.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was hard sometimes to watch people come in behind you and pass you, but I knew I was doing the right thing for our family. And so, it was okay. It was okay. Not easy, but okay.
So, and I don't know anything about partnership on a tax side, but did you make partner at Cherry Bekaert, or was that a goal of yours or anything like that?
When I started with Cherry Bekaert, there wasn't really enough time.
Okay.
I don't know that I could have gotten promoted to partner anyway.
Okay.
They did promote me to tax director.
It has the same authority.
It has the same authority.
Okay.
It's just not an equity owner. So I had the same role. I just didn't buy into the.
The partner means equity owner for an accounting firm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I wasn't going to be around long enough had they decided to buy in. I mean, it just didn't make economic sense.
Gotcha.
Because it used to be called income partner or equity partner.
Okay.
And then they switched it to be a director.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was nice.
So you mentioned that you like to mentor people, and obviously I know through CREW, mentorship is very important to you. What did your mentors look like?
Unfortunately, I didn't have as many as I would have liked. I had what you would call performance managers, which was different. It was someone that was just evaluating how I performed. There were two men that I ran into during my career for short periods of time. I wish I'd worked with them longer because I think that things could have been wonderful with them. There was one that I worked with at the firm where I was trying to get to partner, and I was part-time. And I only worked with him for about a year before I changed jobs. But he tried really hard to convince them that there could be a role for somebody that wasn't full-time in a partnership position, that compensation would be less, everything could be scaled back based on the hours that I could work. And he tried really hard to promote me on that. But so he was an advocate. And then he was always telling me, you need to do this, and you should do this, and you did a good job on this. So that was really nice. But I only worked with him for about a year.
Yeah.
So that was kind of sad. And then the other one I've worked with, I don't know how many different times during my career. We'll work together, and then we would leave, and then we'd come back and we'd work together, and then we'd leave, and we'd go separate directions and come back and work together. And every time I worked for him, in fact, he was probably my biggest advocate to get promoted to tax director at Cherry Bekaert. He was just always supportive. I would lose him. Like, he would go off and, work for the Cliffs, or, who I'm talking about.
Tim.
Yeah, Tim Cherry.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
I just love him.
Yeah. He's a great guy. He retired like a month or so after I did, but he's 10 years older than I am.
So that should make you feel pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, he just loved his job, and he was really, really a pretty good advocate. I wish I'd worked with him more.
So was it mostly like a sounding board kind of support system that was the most valuable, you think?
Yes, I think so. That, and he'd see things that I wouldn't see and say, Debbie, you should really be doing this. I'm like, oh, okay. I can do that.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, then
that's right.
You can't do it.
And different perspectives sometimes, it just makes all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So what, within CREW's mentorship program, what draws you to that? Like, why do you enjoy, teaching and
because
helping?
I've seen over time how much a difference it can make.
Yeah.
Just all the women that I've worked with, and I gravitate towards women. I've had some male mentees as well that have been wonderful and that I've helped, but my passion is for women, just because I know where I came from and how much I didn't know and how much help it was when people would tell me things that were like light bulbs that I'm like, oh, I wish I'd known that 10 years ago kind of thing. And so, I just remember, I had a woman come up to me the other day that I ran into that I hadn't seen in probably 20 years. And she goes, I just want to thank you. And I said, thank you for what? And she said, you were amazing. She said, she had a family issue and had to work at home, which that was when working at home was not a thing. And she was struggling with working at home. And she came to me and she said, Debbie, I really need a printer. And I said, okay. She goes, but I don't think I've asked and they're not going to give it to me. So I wrote down, okay, here's her value. This is how much we're paying her. This is how much it costs to train her. This is what it'd be if we lost her. Here's how much a printer costs.
It's clearly worth
think
it.
about this. And they got her a printer.
Yeah.
And I had totally forgotten that. And she came up and she said, I just want to thank you. And so it's things like that where I know I helped people. That's what makes it all worthwhile. I hope I look back 10 years, like when I really do retire, I can look back and say, oh gosh, I helped this person succeed, whether it's professionally or personally. Because that's the thing about mentoring is so often people think that it's only business, but it's not. It's personal. If you can't manage your personal life, then your business life isn't going to work either.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So it's doing the two together. And I think that a lot of businesses miss that and they focus too much on the business side of it and not realizing that you've got to have the whole piece. So helping people personally and professionally has just always been a passion of mine.
And I will say, I feel like that's the male mentors that I've had, and not in a bad way, it was all very business focused. And the female mentors that I've had, very much the idea of balance and how do you look at the whole person. And I think that's really important.
I agree.
So tell us what characteristics do you think are important for mentees to look for in mentors, or someone that, because as we think about, the mentor program with CREW, and if there's anyone that's, new in their career, what should they be looking for in a mentor?
I think they need to look for someone that they can trust, because you've got to feel safe talking about your career goals. I think they need to look for someone that they feel is honest, which hopefully most people are, but sometimes not necessarily, or they're only honest to a certain extent. I think you need to look for somebody that's genuinely interested in people and helping them grow and progress. Because I've been in relationships, whether it's performance or whatever, where I can tell the person doesn't really care. They're there, they're giving lip service, but they don't really care what my goals are or whether I succeed or helping me get to the next level. They're just checking a box. Oh, I had this meeting with this person. And so it's pretty easy to tell. So those are the main things, I think. And I have different feelings about whether you pick somebody in your career, like when you're working, of course, it'd be good to have somebody that, but if you're looking for a mentor in general, I almost think it's better to pair with somebody that's not in your profession because you get to see a different side of things. You can pick somebody that's maybe got a similar role, like as an accountant, maybe a lawyer, for example, where they're similar and they might have similar hurdles that you have as far as billable hours and whatever those are. But I've had feedback from people both ways. So
I think like if you have an outside mentor, they should be helping you figure out how to build the relationships inside your company, right? Because you have to have both.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right. It does help to have an outside perspective. Sometimes you get a little too minute, niche focused, and no one in your company is ever going to tell you to leave your company.
No.
So, and sometimes that might be the right career choice for you. So I think it is important to have mentors, and then either a mentor or an advocate inside the building.
Definitely need an advocate inside.
Right.
Somebody at the table.
Agreed. It helps to have both.
So what advice do you have for someone that is interested in getting involved in either commercial real estate or tax in commercial real estate?
Tax is awesome.
Doubtful. No, it's really important.
I don't know how many
figure
people have ever
that
heard say that.
I would say decide what you want. And maybe that's through education or through talking with people. I think reaching out, and I've known people that have done this early on, even when they're in school, reach out into the community. I think most people in business would be honored if a student reached out and said, hey, I'm thinking about going into your particular field. Would you have time to meet with me? Talk to people, learn about, go visit, ask to be an intern so you can see how things work so that you can decide what path you want to go into. And then once you make that decision, get a mentor, join CREW.
Yeah.
But that I would say find the best place to get the education, but do a lot of talking to people. Just talk to people and find out.
Just maybe not January through April for tax
Not
professionals.
January through April.
It is a little hard to grab their
outside perspective for that.
Yeah.
So since we've been talking about CREW and mentorship, why don't you tell us a little bit about the CREW mentor program and how it's set up and what the goals are and things like that, just for people that don't know, maybe someone else will be interested in joining it.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the program. And I thank COVID for it because the committee I was chairing was a career outreach committee. And we were trying to get into the schools to do some training in the schools, and the schools shut down. And we're like, now what? And I feel very strongly about mentoring, and Mareena encouraged me to start this program. So we did a survey of the membership, in particular those that wanted to be mentees, to discover what it is that they were looking for, and then paired those people with mentors. And the idea is it's a year-long program. We're hoping that people stick together for at least that 1 year. This time we're doing a second round, so we're going to have mentors and mentees together for 2 years because we feel like last year was our inaugural year. But the idea is to meet. I would like to see people meet once a month, but once a quarter at least. And we have topics that we can supply for folks to talk about, or if the pair meets and can take off, then that's great. We're looking to have some training for mentors. Anybody that wants to be a mentor, we would love to have you. And we're going to do some training this year. We're going to have some speakers come in and talk to the groups as a whole. We're going to do some small group sessions. The main idea is just to have somebody to talk to. You can request somebody in your own field and we'll pair you that way, or you can request somebody not in your field and we'll pair you that way. The idea is just to have somebody to talk to and to create relationships and grow and learn more about the commercial real estate arena. So.
And it seems like with at least a year, you're setting it up So that and I know there's a couple pairs of people that really hit it off and now they love that mentor-mentee relationship. Other people that are like, wow, that was helpful, but maybe I don't need to
Another
talk
year.
with this same person again. But we've given them or you've given them questions for them to talk over if they want to talk to a new mentor. If they go out and they find someone in their company or in a similar field that they want to talk to, they've at least done it for a year. Because I think a lot of what kept me, I think initially when I was younger, they'd be like, just ask for a mentor. Just like say that you want someone to be a mentor. But then you can't just walk into someone's office and be like, I want you to be my mentor. It's more like, hey, can we get coffee? I have a couple questions I'd like to talk about with you. And then you have those questions and you can have the coffee and not feel like
develops naturally instead of like forcing the issue.
Exactly. So I think there's a huge piece of mentorship that a little bit is organic. And so you have to find a way to cultivate that organic and let it grow on its own kind of idea.
True.
Yeah.
So,
Very true.
but I'm really excited about our mentor program.
Yeah, me
well.
too.
it's
We had
fun.
great response from our end of the season meeting the other week. So I'm excited to see what comes of it this year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you think our last little career-oriented question, what do you think is the best career advice you've ever received?
So I would say there are two that I got that I would rate up there. One came from my dad, and this is corny, but he was a huge promoter of women, and he said that women can do anything men can. This is from when I could barely walk, and that I could be anything that I wanted to be. And he would always tell me, you're an American, not an American. So I was all about, I can do this. I can do this. And that's what that was my dad. A little corny, but it
That's
stuck
cute.
with me.
Yeah.
And then the other one was from Tim, ask for what you want.
Yeah.
And let people know what you're doing.
Yeah.
That was just
It is
earth-shattering. Light bulb goes off. Oh.
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It is one of those things that when you hear it, you're like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. And they're doing that. Really?
Yeah.
That was just, just crazy. A light bulb going off.
Yeah, it's huge because if you don't ask, they don't know. Like, we're not mind readers and, so it's just putting it out there and then see what happens. And if you ask and it's not well received or it's not responded to, like, then you have your answer. Like, maybe it's time to look elsewhere to get what you need.
That's exactly right.
That's really true.
Yeah, it's huge.
I think that's one of the things that keeps people from wanting to ask is feeling like the answer will be no. But if the answer is no, then did you want to be there anyway?
Right.
So.
Yeah. And if the answer is no, then you're not any worse off than you were.
Yeah.
And I will say, especially now after COVID, I feel like, one, workers are in need, especially if you're a CPA.
Yeah.
That's for whatever you want.
Pretty
but
true.
But yeah, it's we should be able to. Employers are realizing that there's a flexibility that's needed, and that they need to really think about what their employees want before they just give them things.
Yeah. And I just want to commend you for realizing that, back when that wasn't an acceptable thing and saying like, here's what it is. Here's what I need. This is my situation. Like, I hope I can stay and do my best for you if it works out for you. And it did. So that's awesome.
And I'll say too, it's not like you did it and then felt like you were special and different. You did it and said, okay, now I've blazed that trail. How can I help other people do the same thing? Because I've seen you do that.
It opened doors for people. And that's very rewarding too, is to do something, succeed, create acceptance. And then everybody behind you then has that opportunity
That's
to do
exactly
that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, like, we're all just people, like we have the same or similar issues. Like, you have a large family where both the parents are working, and now like there's so many other people that are in that same situation. So yeah, just ask. It's huge.
I agree.
All right. You ready for the rapid fire questions?
Rapid fire fun questions.
Okay.
Fire away.
What do you like to do for fun?
Oh, that's easy. I want to go RVing. I love camping. I love hiking. I've tent camped, and this RV, you guys, is phenomenal. You don't get wet when it rains.
Where's your first trip going to be to after April?
We're going for a week to the Smoky Mountains. I've never been in Tennessee.
Awesome.
I'm hoping. Have you guys heard of the synchronous fireflies?
No.
Oh gosh, every year sometime in April, and you never know. It's hit or miss. They, in the Smoky Mountain National Park, the fireflies come back. And they're synchronous. So they flash and they get dark, and they flash and they get dark. And they bring in groups. If you're camping there, you can go see it. But they bring in groups of people. They haven't since COVID. But they'll let you sit down, and you'll sit there in the dark. And all of a sudden, everything will light up, and it'll go dark and light. It is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So we're fingers crossed that maybe we'll see some fireflies.
Okay.
You videotape that.
Yeah, because I
can,
not even
will.
heard of it, but I love fireflies.
Yeah, to be able to do it, you have to do a lottery. Like you have to apply.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So there's this place nearby. I think I'm remembering right. It's been a while, but I think it's called Cades Cove. But it's a national park that you can literally drive through.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah, I went to Tennessee for grad school. And so we would go down there occasionally just to check it out. And like, I've seen bears, like all sorts of deer, like all sorts of animals. Like literally just slow drive through this whole park. And like
And
you
it's
can.
called Cades Park?
Cades Cove, I
Cades
think.
Cove.
I'll look that up later
Okay.
just to verify. But
We'll check that out for sure.
yeah, it was really cool. So add that to your list. It'll be
Okay.
right there.
Okay. So where is your favorite place to travel?
Anywhere mountains. Anywhere mountainous. I mean, I don't have any place in
I'm
particular.
you need to go to Alaska.
It's on our bucket list. That was also something we were supposed to do during COVID.
Yeah.
That unfortunately didn't happen. So
You would love it.
yeah.
Everything about it.
Lots of time coming up now that you can get to do stuff like that.
Yeah, we wanted to go. We were supposed to go to Ireland for our 40th wedding anniversary last year, and Ireland wasn't open yet.
Mhm.
So that's on the bucket list from an international perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Of where I'd like to go. But we love the mountains. We're not beach people.
Uh-huh.
So if we had to pick, we'd go somewhere in the mountains. Yeah.
What is your favorite book or podcast?
So, I really liked Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg.
Mm-hmm. She's awesome.
And I love Brene Brown.
Mm-hmm.
So The Gifts of Imperfections, pretty awesome. And I like her podcast too.
Yeah.
But I also like Crime Junkies. So
A little contrasting genres there.
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anything like that. Yeah.
I love
Okay.
Brene Brown as well.
Yeah. I started reading Daring Greatly. That's
Yes.
really good.
I
so
have that
far.
one. I haven't read it yet.
I've read like the first 2 chapters and I'm already like, okay, wow.
Yeah, I read The Gifts of Imperfection during COVID with my daughter. She lives in Atlanta. I learned how to use Zoom. And we both read, and then we'd Zoom and talk to each other about it. It was awesome. Yeah. She's a people person too, and she was going nuts.
So you needed that interaction.
Yeah.
Good. What current TV show are you binge watching or just watching?
So we just finished Yellowstone, which I
Yes.
thought was awesome.
That is so popular.
I know. It's really big. I'm going to Montana next week because we watched Yellowstone. And so our whole group of friends got a giant mountain cabin up there. So
Whereabouts?
Bozeman, Big Sky.
Okay, I
area.
stayed in Bozeman. We went during COVID, but not RVing because it got canceled, but we flew.
Okay.
It was pretty awesome up there.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Do you ski?
No, I don't,
Okay.
which I told my husband, okay, you guys, this is funny. So I'm a klutz. Let's just throw it out there. I tend to break things, whatever. And so I told my husband.
I'm sorry. Were you the one that rolled over in bed and broke a rib?
Yes.
Okay.
So I told my husband, I said, I really want to learn to ski. We're retired. We've got time. We have the means. And he's like, absolutely not. He goes, I am not going to spend my retirement in the hospital with you. That's sad, but I would love to. I think it would be great workout, good for your health and everything. But he really is, and he's probably right.
He's probably right.
Yeah,
I think of a different sport, but it would be nice. It is the mountains.
It is the mountains.
Yeah.
You got to find another mountain sport that's not dangerous.
The walking one. What's that one?
Oh,
called?
cross country skiing.
Yes, I did that, you guys. I went in January. We went to Park City, and I did cross country skiing, and I did snowmobiling.
Nice.
And the rest of the crew skied.
Okay.
But yeah, it was great.
That is fun.
I've never done that before.
Yeah.
It was great.
All right, last question. What is your favorite restaurant in Greenville, and what do you like to get there?
My favorite restaurant's Taco Sushi.
Oh,
I
So
love taco
that place.
sushi. We should go.
Oh, anytime.
Literally anytime, because if you're in the office, I'm right there.
Okay.
And,
I'll call
Can
you.
I go?
yeah, you can come.
Yeah, I
shoot you a
like
little text.
any spicy sushi, spicy tuna, anything with jalapenos in it, anything like that. Oh, if I have a choice, that's where I'm going to go.
Good one.
Interesting.
I love taco sushi.
Yeah.
I always get the Greenville roll. Actually, I get the bento box of the Greenville roll, and the waiter there knows my order so much that one time we used to go all the time. Like back when,
Apparently so.
yeah, back when I call it the golden age of the audit side when we were like, I was a senior and there was a bunch of us, we go like once a week. And one time I was taking a call from someone and I was like, give me the Greenville roll, like assuming they would know because we always got the bento box. And they ordered me just the Greenville roll. And when I came in and sat down, the waiter came by and he's like, you want the bento box right? And I was like, yeah, I do. And he's like, okay, I have it ready for you, I assume. Like, thank you.
You've officially made it.
Yeah, I was really pumped. So.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, Debbie, thank you so much for your time today and coming in and chatting with us about your career. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know. For instance, about the science background. Like, I had no clue about that.
I actually didn't know that either, and I feel like I know a lot about you. We've had a lot of conversations.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have.
This was good.
Yeah. So it's been great.
Thank you. I enjoyed it as well. It's a pleasure to be here.
So taco sushi next week.
I'm there.
All right, sounds good.
I am there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The Candidly CREW podcast is sponsored by Truist. Truist is proud to be the 2022 Marble sponsor for CREW Upstate and the sponsor of this podcast series. Truist teammates are driven by a common purpose: to inspire and build better lives and communities. They strive every day to make things better for their clients, teammates, and stakeholders. Truist envisions a world with equal access to economic opportunities. Truist proudly supports the mission of CREW to transform the commercial real estate industry by advancing women globally. CREW Upstate's Truist contact is Michelle Dodge, SVP. She can be reached at michelle.dodge@truist.com.